Today's review is a Rob Zombie film, and it's The Devil's Rejects. This is a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, which I guess you could say is more of an acquired taste. But I think this one was able to reach a broader audience, and people were a lot more accepting with this one, with Rob Zombie's style. And it is a better movie, really. Let's be honest. So I think this reached a point where most would agree it is one of the better horror movies, or at least kind of like within like what's considered horror of the past few years. This movie's about 10 years old now, but it's really left its mark and kind of a classic. And to date, Rob Zombie's best work, I would say. So it's a very intriguing movie. It's not an easy watch. It's really not. But that's kind of what is so appealing about it. It's not really what you may expect. Really, what it is about, this family of serial killers, the Firefly family pegged as the Devil's Rejects, who have kidnapped countless people, killed countless people, raped countless people, and as this movie begins, the police have been on to them, and they're raiding their little shack out there in the middle of nowhere. They raid. Most of them get away, except for Mama Firefly, and they go through a secret tunnel. And so essentially, the movie it is criminals on the run. Cops are after them. So it's basically that. But what the kind of switch is that the protagonists of this movie are the crazy, demented, sadistic killers who we have no choice but to follow in this film. And as hesitant as we may be to follow these despicable characters, they tend to become, with each passing moment of the movie, more intriguing, more human, really, which is a weird thing to admit. But at the core of any human being, they're not supernatural beings, they are human. So they have your standard human weaknesses, and they have your standard human likes, dislikes. There's that scene where they get ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream, right? Even sadistic killers may want to stop for ice cream. So that's interesting. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think Rob Zombie is able to get us to empathize at least a little bit with these otherwise horrible characters. So I think that's an achievement that this movie pulls off. And it's almost as if it's fighting against that itself, because they do some horrible things. So after the big shootout, the big escape that opens the movie, there's another a pretty lengthy section of the movie where they hold up these people in a hotel. So it becomes this hostage situation that's fairly intense. Of course, there's going to be the people who try to play hero, try to get away and try to knock out the villains, much to their regret, as they're unable to do it. So I mean, that whole section of the movie, it's very compelling, very edge of your seat, because you don't really know how to feel about it. Like, do I want these people to stop the Devil's Rejects, or do I want them to kill them successfully? Well, they don't really have to kill them. They could just go, but they don't. I am the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work. So I don't know. It's a heavy stuff, I guess. So I mean, it's definitely a very gory movie, a very profane movie, and it has a really cool style to it. So it does kind of feel like, sort of like a 60s, 70s kind of movie, more so 70s, but, just kind of like it feels like kind of a Manson era movie. Like, obviously there is a high inspiration from the Manson family, which, it's not like directly interpreted from it, but definitely, at least in spirits, I guess. So it's intense, and we follow along these characters through. It is like an odyssey, really. I mean, they go on this journey like from point to point until they finally reach their fate, really, and what that is. I don't know if I should spoil the ending, what their fate is, but on the other side of that, what would normally be the character that would be followed is still given some good screen time, good story is the cop, Sheriff Wydell, out on their tracks. So I think it all is assembled in such a way that is, from just a general storytelling standpoint, I think Zombie does a great job. I feel so silly saying that. I think Zombie's work here is quite good enough. But yeah, that's his name, Rob Zombie. I don't know if is it his legal name. Is like, does he get like letters from the government? Dear Mr. Zombie. I don't know. That's for another time. But yeah, I mean, he has strength in writing this story effectively and in creating a plot that shows us the necessary information at the necessary times, which you can tell that in some of his other movies he struggles with. I mean, he's not a perfect director, but I think this is as close to perfect as he's gotten with the movie. So I think it reveals the necessary plot points at just the right time. So I think he does a really good job in writing it and directing it. He knows how to create a tense scene, such as within the hostage negotiation, well, the hostage taking scene. Not much negotiating going on there. They're pretty much in charge. And yeah, he gets great work out of his cast. Bill Moseley, Otis Driftwood, he's exceptional in this movie. Truly, he is intense. He is scary, but there is something compelling about him. Like you see the evil in his eyes. I don't know, like I haven't done any research on Bill Moseley, but he has some kind of darkness that he's able to bring to this role that is so effective. That is so good. And on like the opposite side of that, playing his sister, I mean, there's Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob Zombie's wife, of course, who is like on the same plane as him, the same kind of attitude about things, the same sadistic killing, but she's kind of like the more bubbly version of it. So she seemingly has a lot more fun, dancing in front of them, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees. Look at these, I don't know. So I think she's really good in the movie too. Also, I mean, Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding. Fuck, he is so good in this movie. Like, first of all, I mean, like, seeing him in the makeup, it's just like frightening because I think I've gone through this before, but clowns scare me quite a bit. Yeah, so there's that, and the makeup they do with him is really good. And in the same respect as with Bill Moseley, like he's got to have some darkness within him. He is such a great character actor. He is so good in this performance. Like this is his signature performance, Captain Spaulding. This is going to be what this actor is known for. So he's really good at him. He's just so deliciously evil in this movie. Like the scene in the car with the kid where he's like, "What's the matter, kid? You fucking like clowns?" Whoa. If that happened to me when I was a kid, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Threatening to come back and kill his whole family. Oh, so good. So evil and horrible, but really, really good in his role. I thought he was fantastic. I mean, he gets top billing in this movie, so you could say that he is the primary character. He's the man with the plan, He's the guy who's going to help out, the Devil's Rejects. He's going to get them to this safe house where it's, it's like a brothel or strip club combination headed by Ken Foree, also really good in his role. So I mean, it is like this Odyssey. So you meet all these characters along the way. So on their tracks, there is the Sheriff Wydell, played by William Forsythe. Again, brilliant. I can't stress enough how well assembled Rob Zombie has put this cast together. Like this is like almost like Tarantino levels of casting brilliance, really. So yeah, I would say honestly it's among Forsythe's best work. Like as this determined sheriff who wants revenge for his brother's death. He gets this like obsessive kind of sadism himself. So it's interesting, like obviously there's nothing new in the, hey, cops and criminals are kind of the same kind of thing. But since it switched, you're like, okay, so this cop kind of dips into his own insanity as with these. So yeah, they're kind of going down to the same level as what he supposedly wants to stop. So that's interesting. Maybe one criticism of it, I think they could have made the character even more sadistic, even more over the top. They could have made him a lot worse, I think, which would drive the point home a little bit better. Like in like Natural Born Killers, they're kind of doing the same sort of the same thing, where the Tom Sizemore character, he's the cop after them, but he has an evil within himself too. But what really character Scagnetti is the cop's name, what really drives that home. It would have been fine without the scene, but they put it in just to drive the point home, is where he's at that hotel and where he kills that hooker. So I think it needed like a hooker killing scene. That should be all I do. It needed more hooker killing scenes. But anyway, no, it's true. They need something like that to kind of drive the point home a little bit further. I think that would have made the movie just a little bit stronger. But as it stands, I mean, I get the point, and I think they sell it well with the movie. So it all kind of comes together, and again, they clash, and fate is brought upon all these characters. So they're in this insane world that Rob Zombie has created, and what ways out are there really for these types of characters? So it arrives at interesting conclusions. Well, maybe I'll get into spoilers here. So there is a Tiny who kind of appears at the beginning of the movie, kind of watching over the roadside where he sees the cops coming, so he's able to avoid them. So you get the sense that he is following the family, watching them as they go along. And when it's all said and done, like, basically there's been a double cross. So with the Ken Foree character, he made a deal with the Sheriff Wydell that it's basically Empire Strikes Back. He's Lando Calrissian, Wydell is Darth Vader, basically. So they strike a deal with him, and he's able to capture the Firefly family, and he has them right where he wants them. He has them in his little web of sadistic torture, and it's really intense too. That scene, has him tied to chairs. He's taking out the pictures of the victims, like, here, but you thought you was pretty fucking sweet, blah blah blah. Great Williams Forsythe impression, like stapling the pictures to them and wanting to burn them alive. Then the Sherry Moon Zombie character, he gets her outside at the ranch. That's where he brings him, a secluded ranch, and he's whipping her, and he's like, I bet it don't feel so good, and so you're kind of thinking, how are these characters gonna get out of this situation? And the worst thing is, you're like, I hope they make it out of here. But you're like, wait, what did I just think? So that's cool how Zombie plays with us. But then, I mean, it's sort of a cheat, I guess. It's Tiny who's able to stop Sheriff Rydell and get some snaps his neck, and that's the end of it. So that's sort of a cheat, where it's always with any movie, like, how is the character gonna get out of the burning building? How is the character gonna get out of the crashing car with no brakes? How is the character gonna get out of the out of fuel jet? How is the character gonna avoid the nuclear blast? Oh, the fridge. Lined with lead. Anyway, so a little bit of a cheat. I thought there could have been a better way to resolve that, tense scene as well. But I mean, all for naught anyway, because as the movie ends out, in a great spectacle of a scene, very worthy of what this movie has set up, and the style that it has set up, and the tone and atmosphere that it set up. Really no other way for the characters to go out than in a blaze of gunfire, which is what they do. So, like, they've escaped all that. They're in rough shape. Then, whole squad, fucking entire police force is there. And then as Skinner's Freebird is playing, it's in slow motion, and they're blasting their guns away. Cops are shooting them. Kapow. They show, flashbacks to better times, to happier times with, the whole group of friends. I mean, again, they're horrible, sadistic, disgusting people, but they have what any other human being would want, and that's friendship. So I mean, there's that. So I mean, it kind of almost kind of makes you a little bit sad to see them go. That's what it is. There's a primal humanity to anybody walking on this earth, no matter how evil, no matter how good, and there's good and evil within us all. Blah 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 blah. So I don't know. So it gets the reaction that it wants to get, and it gets you to feel about the characters, how it means you to feel. So I think Rob Zombie did a good job with this film. It is close to perfection. Like again, I mentioned, there's some things that could have been done a little better. The Wydell character could have been just a little bit darker. They could have resolved the whole nail biter at the ranch in a little bit better of a way, and of course there is one thing that takes me out a little bit of the movie is some of the digital blood, which I found pretty disappointing. I have read IMDb says it's they wanted to do all practical, but it just wasn't within their time constraints to do so, which is disappointing because you see some of the blood, like maybe it looked passable in 2005 when this movie came out, 2005, 2006. Maybe it looked passable then, but you look at it now and you're like, oh boy, that doesn't look too good. So that kind of hurts it a little bit. But other than that, I mean, I would say most of my problems with this movie are fairly minimal. I think it is, again, Rob Zombie's best film, at least to date. So he's definitely a director that he's hit or miss. Like, some people really love his work. He has many devotees. I would say I'm more kind of on the line. Like, I liked this movie, and I somewhat liked Devil's Rejects, somewhat liked Halloween. I at least appreciate, Halloween being as different. And I actually haven't seen Lords of Salem. I hear that's actually pretty good. I want to check that out. Let me know. Comment below if that's worth seeing. So he's a polarizing director for sure, but he has a unique voice. I think it's just he needs to clear his throat, if that makes any sense. But anyway, that'll be my review of The Devil's Rejects. A fantastic movie. Definitely, I mean, while it is a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, stands on its own very well. Very involving movie, and a movie that kind of causes you to think about what conceptions you have and who you want to follow as a main character. Like how how willing are we to empathize with these horrible characters. So I mean, it does a good job there. So definitely recommend checking this out. Good October Halloween horror movie. And definitely worth seeing on Blu-ray too. It looks really good on Blu-ray. So that's my review. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. 31 Days of Horror, plenty more to come. So stay tuned for more. Until then, thank you for watching.